Hey guys, hello and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your friend and your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today, we've got some really big updates and we're going to begin with Steven Soderbergh's Hunt for Ben Solo. This movie, oh my goodness. When it was first revealed by Adam Driver late last year that this was a cancelled movie that was in the works for 2 years, it started a tornado of a response. There are passionate fans out there who are demanding Disney brings this movie back. And to add fuel to the fire, when Kathleen Kennedy stepped down, she said, if Dave Filoni wants it, and if there's demand, then maybe there's a chance. Maybe Disney will change their minds because they're the ones who didn't want it, and allow Lucasfilm, who did, to finally make it. Well, today the situation just got more insane. The what would be director of the movie, Steven Soderbergh, has opened up about the movie once again and has put Disney on blast. And I have to say, he didn't pull any punches. And arguably the craziest takeaway from this is he gave 2.5 years of free work, unpaid, only for the movie to be canned. And he reveals he was frustrated, but so was Kathleen Kennedy. And he says, quote, "It's no surprise she was frustrated. We all were. You know, that was 2.5 years of free work for me and Adam, and Rebecca Blunt. When Adam and I discussed him talking about it publicly, I said, look, do not editorialize it or speculate about the why. Just say what happened. And that was that it was being worked on. Kathleen Kennedy brought it to Bob Iger and Alan Bergman. They read it. They didn't like the idea of Ben Solo being alive, especially after his death in Rise of Skywalker. And they said, no, not gonna happen. And this really took a toll on Soderbergh. Now, to be honest, guys, I'm in two minds about this. Lucasfilm is clearly still doing things with Ben Solo. There was the recent Legacy of Vader comics, which honestly, I think was always intended to be a tie-in to the movie. And they recently revealed there's going to be a sequel to it. So he's on their radar. They've already established a precedent for him to come back, the exploration of the netherworld of the Force in those comics. And in Star Wars, plenty of characters come back. And there's a real momentum behind this movement. There seems to be more excitement and passion behind the hunt for Ben Solo than most things coming up that are confirmed. But on the other hand, my friends, I wonder if this could actually save Star Wars the way some people claim. I know Kylo Ren is popular, he's a great villain, despite the issues I have with the sequel trilogy. Should they do it though? Well, according to the opinions of some journalists, that might already be in the plans. In the Boardwalk Times' 26 Disney predictions for 2026, they think there is a very solid chance, with Josh D'Amaro now as CEO of Disney, that he's open to the project, and they think the Hunt for Ben Solo could be announced by the end of the year. Their prediction is that it's going to be at D23 Expo, and there is a chance all of this has been part of a wider marketing campaign. That would be the most insane plot twist. And Soderbergh says the hardest part was moving on. This was a huge investment, personally and creatively. And he says, quote, and that's all we were told. So there is nothing you can do about it except move on. And he says, I just feel bad. No one else is going to get to see it. I thought the conversation was going to be a practical one. Where they go? What's this going to cost? But it never even got to that point. We're all very disappointed. And you can tell from his numerous comments, it's still something that haunts him. So for his sake, and for the sake of Adam Driver, hopefully there's a way to bring some of these ideas back, even if it's not in a literal Hunt for Ben Solo movie. Steven Soderbergh though, that's a huge pull for Star Wars, regardless of the project. And while we have our assumptions of what was going to be in it, we simply don't know, my friends. We don't know what this was going to entail, but it was good enough for Dave Filoni, Carrie Beck, and Kathleen Kennedy. Although let's be honest, she said that everything Disney Star Wars was, quote, amazing or fun. But moving on to our next topic, my friends, Tony Gilroy, Andor creator and someone who gets a lot of praise from the fandom and is also just very honest. He just comes out and says what's on his mind, no fluff added, he just gets right to the point. But did you know Disney prevented him from saying one forbidden word during the press tour for Andor Season 2? I covered his comments about Dave Filoni, where he debunked any notion that the new Lucasfilm co-president wasn't a fan of the show. And Gilroy said despite some of the rumours, there is no animosity, and it's all peace and love. But today, my friends, there is another soundbite making the rounds, or should I say, two soundbites. The first is about Disney censoring him, and the second is what he would do as Lucasfilm president. Let's begin with the former. There is one word, a word which is used and thrown around a lot these days, and one which is at the heart of Andor, but it's one that Disney begged Tony Gilroy not to use in any context in the build-up to Andor's second season, and that word is fascism. It's a word that carries a lot of stigma, but in the fictional context of Star Wars and Andor, it is so inherently tied to Palpatine's empire. Because Andor wasn't just a Star Wars story with blasters and rebels. The Empire wasn't just evil and fascist in a cartoonish way, it was systemic, bureaucratic, and accepted, and it's why it's so often called the banality of evil. Across both seasons of the show, it was demonstrated through surveillance, pen-pushing, policing, and careerism. The fascism was organised. But Star Wars' politics are pretty timeless. This is something Tony Gilroy's been very clear about. Even though he himself has his own political views, it's a very tense time in the world, and we've never been more divided than we are today. And so when Andor came out, even more so with Season 2, it's pretty normal, as with any art form, that fans looked at it and said, you know, in this way or this way, art is mimicking life. But Gilroy said the present day was not the main inspiration. He had no idea at the time that the conversations going on in 2025 and now 2026 would have some relevance. But the forbidden F word itself is something Disney did not want him to use. He says the actors on the show have a broad spectrum of political ideas, and he didn't want to violate anyone's conscience. As a result, he said Disney came up with a line of explanation that tried to dance along the line without outright calling it fascism. He goes on to say the fascism in Andor is based on different historical models of it, and around the world, not just something that's Eurocentric or American-centric. The rebels in Andor are based on different revolutions throughout history, and the Empire, different authoritarian regimes. Like I say though, you know, Gilroy's got his own opinions. He says, quote, "You get out your Fascism for Dummies book for the 15 things you do, and we tried to include as many of them as we could in the most artful way possible." And then Tony Gilroy goes on to explain what he would do if he were Lucasfilm president. And this should come as no surprise to anyone, and just keep in mind, he's probably done with Star Wars, so it doesn't even matter. And he says this, "If I was going to do that job, I'd rather go down swinging. I'd rather go down in flames. As low risk as my life is, my creative life is pretty high risk. So I'd like to swing away. Safety has never been one of my navigational principles." And listen, it's no secret, Gilroy makes very bold, creative choices, and if you were in charge of Star Wars, that would be no different. Andor is one extreme in terms of Disney Plus shows. You've got hardcore politics, real-world themes on the one hand, and on the other, mysticism, fantasy, anthropological archetypes, and as Dave said, they represent the diversity of Star Wars content these days. I find it really interesting in light of Dave Filoni becoming the new co-president that Tony Gilroy thinks we're not going to get anything like Andor ever again, and he keeps using the phrase, "we got away with it." In previous interviews where he's elaborated on this, he praises Kathleen Kennedy and says he couldn't believe he did a brothel scene, and he can't believe so many decisions weren't cut. So I guess he's pretty blown away by that, especially in light of the way so many Star Wars projects get changed in pre-production, in the writing process, in reshoots. The big question I have is Dave Filoni going to take similar risks? Is he going to play it safe? Or is he going to hear out creatives who might have novel and different ideas to him? People who are willing to push the envelope, like Tony did. And with that said, share your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this one, my friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you next time. May the Force be with you, always.